I'll play this from the beginning then.
Yep.
I'd like to convey my warmest greetings from the pop movement to each one of you, and like to also convey my heartiest congratulations to Sam and to the entire family that collects here today, and for today and tomorrow, and I hope forever. And I know you'll have a chance to deliberate extensively on a range of different important issues, from sustainability to action, protect our planet, and to rights, and to a whole range of different things that are really of consequence to your life, to my life, and to everybody else's life as well. So I'm going to encourage you to do a few things, please. One is, as you deliberate, think about what action and change we can really bring to our lives as a consequence of this important interaction. So I think it's really important that we start to think about how we can translate this dialogue into act. And I know as you come together, you're driven. You're definitely a group of inspiring young leaders. And I know as you do what you do, you mobilize many more people. So it's really important to think about what we can do as we mobilize these young people from different parts of the world, from Nigeria and from the rest of the continent, in Africa, as well as other parts of the world and the universe that makes up our world. The other thing I'm going to say is, please consider the spirit of goodness, about giving, about sharing, about being in touch with each other with that spirit of deeper consciousness. And I think really, to be honest, peace and sustainability will come out of that. Like Gandhi, our great leader, said, we have, the planet has enough to serve everybody's need, but not the greed that sadly has taken over a lot of the way we've gone about our business, about our work, and so-called development and progress. So I truly believe if we want to make progress and we want to head in the right direction, it is about creating an elevated consciousness where we make mindful decisions about the consequences of everything that we do today for generations to come. We've had experiences where we've done things. I mean, we've lived through the pandemic most recently. We're still living through it, where we've done a lot to protect ourselves by using PPE, for example, which is personal equipment, protective equipment. But what's happened is that we've generated a lot of plastic in the bargain. And this is contaminated plastic, which sure enough is going to find its way into the oceans, and it has, and it started to have an impact on the marine ecosystem. And of course, we know the implications of plastic are drastic and far-reaching. They affect human health. They are further aggravating floods. I know that there are a number of experiences all of you will be able to share, which have emerged from plastic pollution. So this is just one example, but what I'm trying to say is I think it's really crucial that we all think about what the implications of our actions are. And as we do what we do to touch the lives of our brothers and our sisters and our larger family, we are mindful. Please share love, share goodness, and spread it, and it does. You don't need to do much to spread it. The moment you start to share it, it will spread. And I think that is the kind of consciousness we need as we think about the leaders of today and tomorrow, the youth of the world, the 1.8 billion young people who have the potential to create the groundswell we need to make this world a better place, to protect our planet, and to have a future which is peaceful and sustainable. And it is going to take coming together, but doing it with the right spirit. Because if we talk about progress, which is going to serve a few people, but ultimately hurt many, 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 create inequities and disparities, we cannot possibly call this progress. I don't know what definition of progress it is, but this is not progress, not the progress that we are setting out to achieve, and not part of the sustainable development goals, which we are all committed to delivering upon. And can we do it? Yes, we can. As hard as people may tell you it's very hard to do, and so on and so forth, the truth of the matter is we have the resources. We have the intelligence. We have the emotional know-how. We need to put it in practice. And I know each one of you has the potential. You're well into your way of catalyzing this potential too. And it's now about joining minds, hearts, and souls and putting this into play. And I just want to say that I'm with you in this process. I shall remain with you always. Please feel free to call on me. My email address is available. I'm sure Sam can drop it in the chat here for everybody. And the POP movement, where POP stands for Protect Our Planet, is devoted to you and devoted to protecting the planet and all the beautiful species we are so blessed to share the planet with. And I just want you to know that you're a precious member of our universal family, and I embrace you, and I do so with my heart. So a warm welcome to the POP movement once again, and congratulations on all the beautiful things that you're doing. And I will be with you every step of the way, now and always. Thank you, and thank you, Sam, for all that you do. My heartiest congratulations once again. I'm honored to be with you. God bless you, and let's pop. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Dr. Ash, for that wonderful welcome notes. Good morning, everybody. Please, let's keep the introduction coming, and then we use the chat box. Yesterday was really a wonderful section, and then I don't know if Nuruddin is prof here. Nuruddin?
Yes, Sam, we can hear you.
Okay, I mean, Nuruddin. Nuruddin, can you hear me?
You're audible, Sam. I don't know if you're calling someone else.
Yes, I'm calling someone. I wanted to know if the speaker, if the is here. If not, let's do. Mr. Victor, can you hear me? Okay.
Should I make him the co-host, Sam?
Okay, so can we do a recap? I don't know how many of us can I just need like 2 or 3 rapporteurs that could talk to us in regards to what they learned yesterday, and then also what the actions they want to take. But before that, Nuruddin, is Prof ready?
Hi, Sam. Prof is yet to be on board. I'm still communicating with him that he's.
Okay, it's all good. It's all good. Let's just take a recap. Let's take a recap of the activities that went on yesterday, and if you want to say anything, you could unmute yourself, but we shouldn't do that in a noisy way. So who wants to go first? You may just raise up your hand so I can just call. A recap of what you learned yesterday.
Can I speak, sir?
Okay, please, Victor.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I think what you learned essentially yesterday revolved around the fact that a barren land, the life can be breathed on a barren land, and it was so fascinating that we have a plant species, with a very deep, extensive root system that can supply water to yet another plants that will eventually grow and create shade, create the right ambience, that is required to have a more healthy environment, within a healthy environment within a locality. So I am really fascinated by that. Imagine under a plant shade, temperature is being recorded as 25 degrees. Just outside of it, it is 35 degrees. A difference in 10 degrees rise in temperature. The fact that one single tree species can help to, create the right ambience that would minimize, create the right ambience that will reduce environmental temperature. So is one particular farming practice, the ephemeral farming practice, that I feel is really fascinating, and I was really inspired by that. And like I said, I look forward to working, with all relevant stakeholders to ensure that we implement it in the northern part of Nigeria, where desertification is still a problem, and environmental degradation is still a problem. So it's indeed an interesting a lecture from Mr. Tony yesterday. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Who else? You could just raise up your hand while I call you. Who else like you learned something yesterday and you want to share with us?
I have to connect in that problem.
Hi.
Please, Mr. Victor, can you mute? Who else? Is there anything? Okay. If we don't have anybody else, I think we can start today's section while we wait for Prof to come on board. I think we can take on some other person. We can call on another guest speaker for today. I'll wait for Prof to come on board. And then the next guest speaker we have is actually the person that just spoke. And he's Mr. Victor. And I would like Nuruddin to introduce Mr. Victor to us all while he starts his presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sam, for this opportunity. Our first speaker for today's session is Mr. Victor Okaja Chijoke. Mr. Victor Okaja is a prolific lecturer in the Department of Microbiology, Federal University Gusau, Zamfara State, Nigeria. He has devoted over a decade teaching and conducting research in both secondary and post-secondary levels. He is a medical microbiologist whose research interest is focused on antimicrobial resistance and drug discovery. He has attended numerous workshops and seminars and has published 5 scholarly articles in reputable journals to his credit. Mr. Victor is a member of the Nigerian Society for Microbiology. He is also a member of American Society for Microbiology and Nigerian Society for Biotechnology. Mr. Victor is currently a head of programs, Center for Community Advancement and Development, CENCAD, a non-profit organization, which he uses to carry out humanitarian services in various communities. Dear participants, I present to you Mr. Victor, who will be speaking on the topic titled Understanding the Climate Change and Antimicrobial Resistance. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much indeed. And thank you everyone for having me on board. It is a pleasure and a privilege to be part of this forum for today. I will not be sharing my screen this moment. Please, you grant me the latitude I will send my detailed presentation as soon as I'm done with the presentation.
Sorry, Mr. Victor, do you have
can we send the presentation to
yes,
the
send it to me. Send it to my WhatsApp. Let me forward it so that I can project it.
All right, a quick one now.
Hello.
Quickly send it.
Hello, sir.
Please go on. Please. Hello.
Hello. So I'm talking about the last yesterday presentation that they said that we can go to. So I didn't get any email about it.
No, we will send everything today, the slides and the link, the YouTube link. You get everything today because today is the last day.
Okay. After today.
Yes, you get it today, and then we'll be sending feedback form to everybody that participated, so that from the feedback we can get your certificate from there. So just make sure you are here till the end. All right, thank you for the question.
Okay,
please, you may mute. Please just mute. Now, if you set it, please let me know so I could forward it to.
All right. I'm working to send the presentation to you. Right.
Sent? Have you sent it? Again. Naruddin, have you sent it?
Yeah, I'm sending it now.
Please, you have to be fast about it because we don't have time to ourselves. Done? Naruddin. So sorry for all those who are expressing network issues, and also sorry for the delay. We want to make sure that all participants are fully engaged in this training. See, the presenter has a slide, so we're trying to get the slide and project it for everybody so that you get to follow actively on what the presenter is talking about. I feel you engage more with that. And also, just to recap or paraphrase rather, that all presentations, the slides are going to be made available to us, and as well the links. Okay, because this visual meeting, this visual training is actually streamed online via YouTube, and that is I just sent the YouTube link on the chat room. So the link is actually available for the day 1 and the day 2. So we'll be sharing that with everybody after the training. And after the training too, we'll be giving everybody an e-certificate of participation for this training. And then you'll be getting a feedback form via the chat room. So towards the end of the training, we request that you fill the form, and that is the basis at which you can be able to generate the certificate of participation to you. So thank you. And then Mr. Narudin, I feel you should be able to send that now, or we can just take the presentation that way because we don't have enough time. Mr. Narudin.
Okay, yes. Yeah, hello, Sam.
Yes.
Please, we are very sorry about the technical challenge we are having right now. Maybe Mr. Victor should start while I will continue to work on the slide. As soon as I get it, I will send it for presentation.
Is the slide ready? Because we have already spent
enough time ready. Meeting. Yes, it's ready, the slide.
Forward it to my WhatsApp or to my email. Any of them, I can access any of these two. Just forward it to any of these two channels. I can access them.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Victor, please, you may just give a brief recession to us before we get you on board. Mr. Victor. Mr. Victor, are you there?
Can you hear me? It is a pleasure and privilege to be with you on this day 2 part of the workshop. I'll be taking you through understanding climate change and antimicrobial resistance. I remain Mr. Victor Okaja, the head of Program Center for Community Advancement and Development, Gusau and for State, Northwest Nigeria. We'll be looking at these two concepts under the following heading: the cause change, facts and causes, the nexus change and antimicrobial resistance. Then, now is there a connection to see in the course of this presentation? We are going to our planet actually precipitates or promotes the emergence and spread of antimicrobial resistance. We're also going to look at these terms in details. Now, climate change and antimicrobial resistance are the greatest and most complex threats currently facing. Climate change is estimated to cause over 150,000 deaths annually, of which 250,000 deaths per year by 2021. Climate-related disasters cost the world about $650 billion United States dollars from 2016 to 2018. Antimicrobial resistance that the cost of antimicrobial resistance at United States dollars every year in the United States alone. And globally, the cost is extremely high and different in each country. Now, climate change is a situation characterized by indiscriminate burning of fossil fuel, leading to global warming and other lethal consequences. In the last 40 years, global warming has increased by 0.1 degrees Celsius per year, and could reach 2 degrees Celsius by 2050. Alarmingly, this implies that about 4 trillion metric tons of ice in Arctic and Antarctic regions, melts during this since 1990s, which results in rising sea levels and flooding. Now, global leaders in their summit in Glasgow, Scotland, between October 31st to November 12, 2021, in their climate summit, COP26 at Glasgow, Scotland, described the world climate crisis as a code red for humanity. This is coming from the United Nations UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, and the US envoy on climate change, John Kerry, described the climate threats facing the world as one that requires the overwhelming urgency of this moment. Accordingly, the leaders pledged to limit planetary warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, acknowledging that to delay in leading climate action is to exacerbate natural disasters. And indeed, it is with the overwhelming urgency of the moment, it is heartwarming to see us young people taking bold and transformative steps in leading climate action. Now, I have pictorial illustration here, which I had wanted to share, but because of the challenges we are having, it simply shows the causes of climate change, and among which we have the release of greenhouse gases. And these gases are released because, I think someone needs to please off his mic.
Please go on, please go on.
Yes, the release of greenhouse gases, which are largely because of the burning of fossil fuel from industries and homes. And these greenhouse gases are so-called because of their ability to retain heat. And they are derived from the greenhouse. Of course, the greenhouse, we know, where vegetables are grown under controlled conditions. So the key word there is that they retain heat. And we are talking of gases such as carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, chlorofluorocarbon, and methane gas. Now, these gases are notorious for warming our planet. Some, particularly the chlorofluorocarbon, erode the ozone layer, which is a layer in the stratosphere that helps to shield the planet or the Earth from the intense heat of the sun. Now, with the eroding of the ozone layer and the warming of the Earth, known as the greenhouse effect, then the Earth is left bare with intense sunlight and exponential rise in the transpiration of water into the atmosphere, and then which returns back to the Earth as heavy rainfall, as has been experienced in different parts of the world. Now, some of the consequences of climate change include, among others, global warming, melting of glaciers and ice sheet, rising sea levels, torrential rain and flooding, severe storms, destruction of farmland, livelihood and community, poor water quality, which outrageous cost of food items due to destruction of farmland, like I pointed out, intense and frequent droughts, and heat waves. I've illustrated all of this pictorially, and I wish I would have shared it now for citing, but then I believe it is going to reach us hopefully when we have addressed the technical errors we are facing.
Hello, Mr. Sam, can you please check your email? I sent you Victor's presentation. Sorry about the delay, please. Samuel.
All right, I now continue.
Okay.
Now, we have looked at one aspect of the problem, climate change. And we have seen that with flooding, with refugee situation created by disasters, climate change essentially creates conditions that promotes the emergence and spread of antimicrobial resistance. So by the way, what is antimicrobial resistance? It is the ability of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, viruses, and parasites to change their form or their structures in such a way that they no longer respond to drugs that they were once that once kills them or that they were once susceptible to. And so, with this definition and the following key facts, we better understand the concept of antimicrobial resistance. As antimicrobial resistance is a global health and development threat, it requires urgent multi-sectoral action in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Misuse and overuse of antimicrobials are the main drivers in the development of drug-resistant pathogens. Lack of clean water and sanitation, inadequate infection prevention and control, promotes the spread of microbes, some of which can be resistant to antimicrobial treatment.
Hello.
In addition, yes.
Mr. Chuku, my name is Abdusama Shitu.
In addition to deaths and disability, prolonged illness result in longer hospital stays. Now, the clinical pipeline of new antimicrobial is dry. That's one thing we need to know. In other words, novel antimicrobial that are supposed to be used or that are being researched upon, are not there. And so we now begin to look at those specific microorganisms. Those specific microorganisms.
Mr. Victor, please, what slide are you, Mr. Victor?
Slide 22, sir. Key facts about antimicrobial resistance.
Slide 22, please.
Yes. Now.
22. Go more. 22. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, the rate of resistance common antibiotics such as ciprofloxacin and urinary tract infection have been reported. Again, have been reported, to cause about 92.9% resistance to the antibiotic.
Mr. Victor, you're echoing, please.
I don't know. Please, sorry for that. Hitch. For Klebsiella pneumonia, which is implicated.
Yeah, I think there is someone connected to the Zoom. As well. So you're echoing. Is Mr. Victor here? Mr. Victor?
Okay, he's coming. I think he got disconnected.
But enough now.
Is there anyone from his team who wants to go ahead with the presentation?
Please, sorry for that, Hitch. We apologize for
his time will be ending by
His time
11. So
will be ending by 11. So
just sure he knows that we don't have enough
knows that we don't have
but
enough
we end
time.
today's section.
But the end of today's section, that's what that's. All right. All right. All right. All right. I continue, please. I continue, please. I am slide 22. I'm on slide 22. We are still discussing key facts about antimicrobial resistance. Antimicrobial resistance. And like I pointed out, resistance due to bacteria that are once susceptible. Hello, Mr. Sam. Hello, Mr. Sam. Hmm? Hmm? All right, Mr. Sam. All right, Mr. Sam.
Please go on.
Echoing. It's repeating itself. All right, can you hear me now? All right, can you hear me now?
I don't know where the echo is coming from, but
I think I'm hearing myself.
Mr. Victor, please just go on.
Just go on. All right. So the summary of these key facts is that the drugs that are once used kill common pathogens are now being resisted. Resistance has now been established against antimicrobials of even last resort. So we have resistant strain of Neisseria gonorrhea, which is resistant to common antibiotics like sulfonamide, penicillins, tetracyclines, and even the early generations cephalosporins. In 2018, the WHO estimates that there are about half a million new cases rifampicin resistant tuberculosis identified globally, with other forms of TB identified as multi-drug resistant TB and the extensive drug resistant tuberculosis. Now, antiviral drug resistance is an increasing concern in immunocompromised patients, prolonged long drug use exposure has led to the selection and emergence of drug resistance HIV, artemisinin-based combination therapy, and the recommended first-line treatment for uncomplicated malaria falciparum. Partial or complete resistance to artemisinin has been confirmed in countries like Cambodia, Leo People's Republic.
What slide are you, please?
What slide are you, please?
Hello, sir.
25, sir.
Hello, sir.
25, sir.
Hello.
25.
Hello, this
25.
Hello, this is repeating itself. Up to date. I'm not hearing you.
I'm in
Mr.
slide
Victor,
25.
Mr. Victor, I feel your audio, and I'm hearing myself too.
Could it be from my end? Because
I don't know.
our technical experts have not done. So,
Please go on. Go on.
Please go on. All right. All right. All right. Like I've mentioned, all these endemic countries have also experienced Hello, can you hear me now?
Hello, can you hear me now? Mr. Victor, please go on. You have 9 minutes, please. Have 9 minutes, please. So you just have to.
All right. Malaria endemic countries are the ones I've mentioned.
Oh, Mr. Victor.
Yes.
Larry, can you hear me? Larry, can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you. Yes.
Larry,
Can you?
Larry, now you there?
Yeah, I'm with you, Mr. Samuel. Yeah, I'm with you, Mr. Samuel. Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. Okay, please, Mr. Victor,
Mr. Victor,
he may. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
I used Mr. Nora's phone. It was still repeating. Suggesting that it's not from this end, sir. It's not from this end, sir.
Okay, Kumal, please. I don't know if you have an idea about that. You have an idea about that. About the echo.
Your voice too is echoing.
Yes, I noticed. Let's just mute everybody. Kumal, please, can you mute everybody? Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Is this the echoing?
No.
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
It's still echoing.
Yes.
Still echoing.
Is it better now? Hello, is it better or is it still echoing? Sam? Victor? Sam?
Yes.
Yes, I'm with you now.
Please go ahead.
Everybody hear me now. All right. So,
It's still not very clear, Victor. It's still echoing. I think there's some issue from your side.
I wouldn't know because I brought my phone and use that of my colleague, and it appears to be the same thing. And even those people from the other.
Is it possible for you not to use the microphone? I think there's some issue with the microphone. Can you use just normal note to give your presentation?
Normal what? Normal what?
Like, please don't use microphone or headphones if you're using.
I should move it. All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's
Is this still
okay now. It's still better now. You go ahead.
okay now? Okay now? Is it okay now?
Yes, it's okay. Please go ahead.
All right.
No, Victor, there's some noise from your end. Sam, can you hear me? Could you explain him, please?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me clearly? Am I echoing?
No, you are not. There's some disturbance from Victor's side. Victor, would you like to try again? Victor, can you hear me?
Yes,
So would you like to reconnect because your voice is breaking?
Please. Hello, come on. Please, let Victor exit. Let's see how it goes. Then he can add up himself back again.
Okay. Maybe I should stop sharing my screen and we can go ahead with the other. Yeah. Sure.
Yes, stop sharing your screen. Yes.
Now please go ahead with the presentation.
Okay, Mr. Benson Lama, are you here with us? Please. Hello, Mr. Benson.
Sam, who is next? I need to unmute that person.
Yes, I just started him up now. He's here already.
Could you name the person, please, again?
That is Benson Lama.
Benson Lama.
Hello, Sam. Can you hear me? Hello, Sam. Can you hear me?
Yes, very clear, very clear.
Yeah. This is Benson Lamara from Kenya.
Okay, Mr. Benson, nice to have you, and we are looking forward to a wonderful engagement with you. So why the other presenter tries to rectify the issue in terms of network from Zen? Please, I don't know if you are ready for your presentation.
Yes, of course, I am ready for my presentation, but unfortunately, I don't have a written, I don't have a soft copy, but maybe I can share it later. I'm in a very remote place right now. So I'm just trying to come up with something that is going to be beneficial to everybody. Yeah, so first and foremost, let me start by saying I'm really happy to be part of this movement. Which is really trying to give hope to so many people in Africa in terms of conservation. We all know, we have been in the recent change, global, and the biggest question is going to be the mitigation measures to counter the. It's not an easy thing when we hello. Hello, Sam. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you. I can hear you now.
Yeah, so I was saying climate change has been a real issue, especially in Africa. The emission of carbon monoxide in the atmosphere has been a challenge. Unfortunately, African countries are the least emitters of CO2, but the effects are really huge, to African countries. So I think when it comes to governments, African governments, they really need to find a way to ensure that whatever is going on, whatever is going on can can be mitigated because it's really affecting our people. Sometime back, we had, we could have really long rains and short rains, but nowadays you cannot even predict when the long rain is coming, nor the short rain, meaning that the climate change is really affecting us. Now, going out to the main topic of forest management and conservation, I would like to say one thing. Forest management and conservation is not an easy thing. As Tony mentioned yesterday, you need to really be patient so that it really requires a lot of patience. It really requires a lot of persistence and a lot of effort for you to really achieve what you want at the end of the day. If you're someone, who really wants like a miracle to appear, to happen overnight, then it's going to be very difficult for you because at the end of the day, establishing a forest beat or a forest plantation is never an easy thing at all. It requires a lot of patience. And if you cannot be patient, then at the end of the, you cannot really achieve anything. Let me say that from establishing a tree nursery to forming a forest plantation out there, it takes time. Because when you talk about establishing a forest, it is all about making sure like all the silvicultural principles have been applied just to make sure we have a healthy forest at the end of the day. A healthy forest out there began from the nursery level. And from the moment you sow the seeds in the seedbed, then you wait for germination to take place. And then you do you prick in, you prick out. Then you wait for some for some days or some few weeks for your seedlings to harden off well, so that you can transfer them to the site. It is a process, and all this process must be followed or must be adhered to strictly, so that you can ensure that at the end of the day, you achieve your objective at the end of the day. And the objective is to come up with the forest, which is a healthy forest at the end of the day. Others let me say, like in my country, in Kenya, we have an institution called the Kenya Forest Research Institute. The Kenya Forest Research Institute is, its work is majorly to produce certified seeds for the farmers, just to ensure that whatever like the selection of seeds done is done in the best way, in the best scientific way. It has been established that when you go out there, you meet a lot of farmers who just met some vendors along the road and just bought some seeds. But when they went and saw the seeds in their farms, in their seed beds, unfortunately, these seeds could not germinate. Or if they can germinate, you find that in future, the trees which come out from these seeds which were just bought randomly along the road, they have a lot of diseases, and these diseases can be spread to other to other trees in that particular ecosystem. Yeah, so this organization has really assisted our farmers. And all what I can say is that since it was established in the 80s, as far as forest conservation and management is concerned, we have really, really gone far as a country. At the moment, our forest cover in the country is around 8.2%, and we are hoping to achieve a 10% forest cover by the end of this year. So you can imagine it's not a very easy thing. The mode of propagation in our country mostly is the use of seeds. So that means like we plant seedlings. We don't depend when we talk about the natural regeneration, it's just a very small section that depend on that, or we do that at a very small percentage compared to the seedlings. So I can say that in achieving the 10% forest cover by the end of this year, it's going to be a collective effort. And as you know, almost half of Kenya is arid and semi-arid land. And basically myself, I have been working in the northern Kenya. That's one of the arid and semi-arid land for more than 6 years now. And what I've realized and learned from this particular area is that you cannot really be able to achieve or to establish a forest because of very many challenges. First of all, the rainfall is very minimal. We really have very minimal rainfall around this area. Another thing, the soils around this area are not really fertile. So it means that the forest which were naturally established around this area, that's what we are really trying as much as possible to manage and to make sure they benefit the local communities for prosperity. Another thing I can say is that to achieve a forest, to achieve a forest cover 10% by the end of this year, we have also really much try to invest as the Kenya Forest Service, really try and invest with the farmers, the farm forestry. There is a program called Farmers Field Forestry, and through this program, we can be able, through the forest extension, to reach out to farmers and encourage them to plant some section of their land, to plant trees, so that they cannot be tempted at the end of the day to go outside. Maybe in the government forest. In Kenya, we have the three types of forest: the community forest, we have the gazetted forest, and we have the private forest. So when we encourage most of these farmers to plant trees in their farms, at least we're sure of one thing: these people, or our people, cannot go to either the government forest, the community forest, or the private forest to cut down trees, maybe for fuelwood, for fodder, or even to make charcoal. And we try as much as possible to make sure, like, we lead them, we guide them on the best practice, how they're going to manage the forest, the forest in their some small forest, the small forest they have established in their farms. Maybe if they want fuelwood, they can just do some pruning, and they can use the branches that they have removed from the standing tree. They can use these branches for fuelwood. They can as well use these branches in making charcoal, because in Kenya, almost more than 50% of Kenya's population depend entirely on fuelwood in their household for cooking or household use. So I can say that we believe that we can reach out to farmers, and I think this is something should be applied like across Africa, in all our countries, just to ensure that we do not continue with the deforestation. I mean, deforestation is really going up in very many countries. And sometimes when I talk to my colleagues, I try to inform them that, you see, you cannot come down to the communities, tell them, maybe through legislation, that the law says you people cannot cut the trees, or you cannot, maybe you cannot cut trees and make charcoal at the end of the day. A larger percentage of people in Kenya depends on whatever they sell. They make charcoal, they collect the fuelwood, they go sell, and they get some money. And this money is used to buy food stuff in their houses. It's used for school fees, to take children to school. So you can imagine these people. There's some families, there's some households in African society that entirely depend on forests just to ensure that their family can feed, their children can go to school, and all that. So the meaning, this is something that is not going is not going anywhere. This is something that's going to stay with us here in Africa. So the biggest question is, like, how are we going, or how are people going, maybe to do some little charcoal making and collect the fuelwood in our forest or in our farmlands in a sustainable manner. We need a situation whereby it's a win-win. At the end of the day, the government is trying to push for people to stop deforestation, but these people depend on the forestry sector for their livelihood. So what are you going to give them instead? You don't just tell people you must do this and you don't give them an alternative. There should be an alternative solution to their problem. So I can say that since most of the most of our communities have been able to accept and embrace the silvicultural systems that we are trying to educate them during our forestry extension program, we can see so many community members have been able to accept. And through that, we can see our forest cover increasing day to day. So we have we are trying to teach them on other activities that they can do it in the forest without basically destroying the forest, like for example the beekeeping in the forest. This has really assisted the society, the forest sector in Kenya. People can go inside, and most of these people, we are talking people living adjacent to the forest. Forestry for forest adjustment communities. These forest adjustment communities, these are the people who are a real threat to the forest, because you find that for ages, for very many years, they have been depending on this particular forest for their livelihood. And there's no way you can just remove them from their ancestral land. So you just need to try and educate them in a way that they can relate, or they can live peacefully, coexist peacefully with the forest without causing deforestation or making damages to this forest. So through by making sure, like, at least say we come in and we connect them with the non-governmental organizations so that they can fund them to buy beehives to establish to establish in this forest, has been a really good thing in terms of forest management. The forest the destruction has really gone down, because we engaging the forest adjacent communities in make sure they are the custodian of our forests at the end of the day. So I think in terms of conservation, forest conservation management, it's a responsibility of everyone just to make sure that our forests are well managed and conserved. And again, I can say that when we plant trees at the end of the day, let's ensure that we plant the trees at the right time. Let's ensure that we plant the right species at the right place, because you find that some people have ended up planting a high potential tree species in a low potential areas. There's no way that particular tree can do well. It can grow, but it's not really going to achieve its objective at the end of the day. So let's plant trees at the right time. That's when, like, the rain is good, the soil moisture buildup is okay, and let's make sure, like, we plant the right species and at the right time. And we should always try as much as possible to use the experts. I believe everybody is he has his line of career. So we should always try as much as possible. When we do tree planting, can we involve someone who can guide us on how we are supposed to, how we can do it, and do it in the best way? Through that, we can be very sure that we are going to achieve a very good survival percentage when eventually at the end of the day we do the survival count. We are going to get a very good survival percentage, and we are not going to go again maybe to do replanting or beating up at the end of the day. So it is the responsibility of all of us, especially the young people. The young people are the leaders today and tomorrow. That's what Tony said yesterday, and let me comment him, like, he really mentioned very powerful words. And so we really need to work together, not as a country, not as a region. We need to work together as African youth, just to make sure we take the conservation effort ahead and to make it even better. So at the end of the day, let us ensure that we practice the best forestry practices, and we ensure that we involve everybody in terms of conservation, because conservation is not a work of an individual person. It's a work of everybody. Combating and mitigating the climate change, it all needs all of us, not just an individual, not a forestry career person. No, it needs all of us to ensure that we achieve our end objective. And therefore, let me take this opportunity to say that I'm really honored to be here today, and at least having learned a lot from yesterday's session and today's session. I'm really thankful for being here, and I really appreciate. So I think that's all from my side, and maybe if there's a question, I can be able to take it now.
Wow, thank you so much for that wonderful section, and it was really eye-opener. So please, we are open for questions. If you have any questions, please, you may just raise up your hand while I call you on board. If you have any question, please just raise up your hand. I can't see any hand. No one has a question. Okay. So, Mr. Benson, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Come on, please. Let's take the next. Let's go to the next presentation. And the next presentation, I'll be doing the next presentation very briefly, in addition to what Mr. Benson has spoken about, and then it will be on mapping and location. So, thank you, Mr. Benson, for your time. I know your management in Kenya is really important. Thank you for spending our time to be with us here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Sam, can you tell me the name again? I need to unmute the person.
Okay, Miraz Mohammed, please just go into this. Mohammed, please go on. Mohammed, you may unmute and go on, please.
I'm sorry, could you spell it? Okay, Mohammed Elfrey, right?
Mohammed Miraz, he has a question. Two people's hands are up. That is Victor Ungu and then Mohammed. Mohammed, please go on. Lucian Mohammed, I think the Riza. Let me see. Okay, so Mohammed, please go. Mohammed, you may unmute. Okay, Victor, please go on.
Okay. Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone. I have a question from our last speaker. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I have a question from our last speaker. I'm from Pakistan. So you said that African countries and like countries like Pakistan, they are not emitting greenhouse gases as the developed countries. So Pakistan is in top 10 countries which is vulnerable to climate change. So will this impact on Pakistan vulnerability will stay in the next 100 years or 50 years, or will this vulnerability will change in next coming years? As Pakistan is doing its like Pakistan has planned to grow 10 billion trees in next 5 years. So will it help us in combating the climate change and to get avoid the effect of climate change in next coming years?
Mr. Benson, I don't know if you got a question.
Yeah. I'm here. Thank you for the question. Yeah, okay. I can say that when it comes to like carbon emission, carbon emission is mainly contributed with the number of industries. Out there in a country. The most it has been known that it has been established that the most developed countries has got more or many industries, and therefore their carbon emission is higher compared to these developed countries, which are mainly in Africa. So I was not very specific about like Africa. There are some other countries which are outside Africa, but they are equally affected by the emission that is mainly contributed by the already developed countries with many industries. So about the tree planting, the 1 billion tree plant that you guys are planning to plant in Pakistan, I can say that that's going to be a very big boost as far as mitigation of climate change is concerned. But let me say that what is needed or what is important is not even the number of trees that's going to be planted at the end of the day, but is it going to be planted the right way? That is, those are the questions that we need to ask ourselves. You can just plant 2 trees or 50 trees, but you ensure that tree grows to maturity. You can plant so many trees, and when you do some evaluation, monitoring and evaluation after some few years, you find that the survival percentage is less than 30 or even 20%. You see, that cannot be sustainable. So what I can say or what I can advise is that when there are 1 billion trees going to be planted at the end of the day, let it be done the correct way, and let the experts be involved just to make sure like these the 1 billion trees are going to be planted the right way, and the mortality rate is going to be very, very low. Yeah, that's the answer from my side. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. And then please just type in your questions at the chat box, please, because once it's 12 now, we will all be talking about time. So we really want to manage this time, please. And then I'll just take the last hand. That is Victor. Victor, please go on.
Yeah, I just want to shed more light with respect to the role tree plays, in mitigating climate change. He spoke about the fact that he was asking whether, don't we have the question as to whether greenhouse gases are not being emitted in Africa. So trees essentially help to remove those gases that warm up our planet. Carbon dioxide and methane gas are the 2 gases implicated. So these are the greenhouse gases. And simple photosynthesis tells us that trees convert carbon dioxide to simple sugar.
Okay. I think we lost something here. Okay, please, Koma, can we meet Victor? I don't know if he's still here. Please, Koma, let's go to the next presentation.
Survey, right?
Let's go to the next presentation. You may share your screen.
Sorry, Sam, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry, there's a lot of noise at my back.
From my end?
No. So the construction is happening at my side. That's why I'm not able to hear anything. Could you write on the chat so that I'll be very clear what you're trying to say?
Let us go to the next presentation. Can you share the slide?
Yeah.
Okay, so good day. Good day, everybody. Hope you can hear me. Hope I'm audible.
Now you're connecting. Same thing is connecting.
Can you all hear me?
Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you. So our next presentation will be location mapping and survey conducting. This presentation was actually done during one of a leadership training here that was held physically at the government house in Ogun State, southwest Nigeria. And then it was done by a PhD holder in a Ibrobe Young. Please, let's unmute, please. Who is Ibrobe Young? And then he, after making his presentations, he shared his slide with us, and I was the organizer of that event in Ogun State, that's the southwest Nigeria. So next slide, please. Okay, good. So next slide. Okay, so what is location mapping and survey? In planning a project, one of the key features or main questions to consider and answer is the geographical location to the site project. This gives rise to location mapping and survey conducting. You know, everybody wants to do tree planting, just like Mr. Benson has rightly spoken. But how often do we take time to map those locations? You know, do you, just like you may see a high tension close to where you want to plant tree, do you consider those high tensions? Do you consider even the physiological outlook of the environment before doing anything in terms of either cleanups, either tree planting, either installing of renewables, or even bringing industries in those locations? You know, because these things are really important. It helps you to know the environment. There's what we call environmental assessments. So it helps you to assess the environment, to know the risk factors, the loss factors, and the beneficial factors of that environment before doing any project or before conducting any environmental project of that particular environment. Next slide, please. Okay, location mapping and survey. The objective of your project determines where you want to site the project. It answers the following question: why are you carrying out the project? The need to carry out the project in a particular geographical location. That is, does the project need / suit the project? Suit the project, yes. Does the location need / suit the project? So let's say you want to plant 1,000 trees in a secondary school. Okay, so you ask yourself this question: this 1,000 trees I'm planting in this school, what is the need? Does this school need these trees? Does this school have any tree? And even though the school have these trees, or even though the school doesn't have these trees, but the next valid question should be, can 1,000 trees be able to occupy this particular area of land? Can 1,000 trees be planted in this school? So you have to make sure you ask yourself those questions before you even say you want to venture into planting, or you want to venture into carrying out any environmental project. You ask yourself, in this environment, if I do this in this environment, can it be sustainable? So for you that want to lead a climate strike, you also ask yourself, if I carry out a climate strike in my locality, how sustainable will it be? And let me just give us a tips. Before you even carry out that climate strike in local environment, you should first of all have necessary consultations with the necessary stakeholders in that particular community. That is number one key to promoting the sustainability of that project, and also to help the community own that project. Next slide, please. Now, definition: what is mapping? To make a survey or as for the purpose of making a map, to plan in details. That is the meaning of mapping. Mapping is to plan in details, okay, to make a survey of something. Now, what is survey? Survey is to determine and delineate the form, extent, and position of a tract of land, by taking linear and regular measurements by applying the principles of geometry and trigonometry. So survey is to gather information on important features / properties / objects that are important to project, that are important for a project in a land area or population. So we like what I said, you have to make sure you determine this area before you even carry it out. And also to survey, you have to gather information about the area. I've said it before. You have to make sure you know the place. Let me take for instance that I want to carry out a project in, yes, Zamfara. Okay. So before we even started this training in Zamfara, I had to reach out to Nuruddin, who is a resident in Zamfara. Now, why did I reach out to Nuruddin, who is a resident in Zamfara? Because I know I don't know anything about Zamfara, and I've not been to Zamfara before, and I don't know much about the Northeast. So I needed somebody that knows more in the Northeast. So I contacted Nuruddin, who has more valid knowledge about the people in the Northeast. So once this information is gathered, Nuruddin will help me to know the areas at which the people is interested. Are the people interested in tree planting? Are the people interested in advocacy? Are the people interested in climate education? So he will help me to know what the people are interested in. And also he will help me to know the nature of problems in that area. He will help me to know the nature of problems in that area. Is the problem high? Is the problem low? What can we do to solve those problems? So that is the information. You need to gather this information, because if you want to carry out a project in any location and you just venture into that location that way, that project may sink. It may not be alive again, because you don't have any necessary information about the area. You don't know anything about their culture. You don't know anything about their tradition. You know, there is this stuff called culture shock in every location. So to avoid that culture shock that will make you unbalanced for months, you have to be ready to make necessary information. That's why in every project, there's what we call point of entry. So point of entry is making sure you have familiarized yourself with necessary stakeholders and you've gathered necessary information you need to gather about that particular community. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, good. So a community, this is a, let's no, go back, please. Go back. Okay, community mapping, it might be defined as a local mapping produced collaboratively by local people and often incorporating alternative local knowledge. Community mapping, sometimes called asset mapping, is all about involving residents in identifying the assets of their neighborhood. Okay, and then looking at opportunities and creating a picture of what it is like to live there. And then survey research or survey project denotes the process of gathering information from members of a particular group using an interview or questionnaire. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So like let me say for instance, I want to carry out a community-based project.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I will still be using Nuruddin as a valid example, because it's actually something that helped me a lot to know most of the to know some of the things in the northwest Nigeria. Okay, so if I want to carry out any community project in northwest Nigeria, I also have to go to Nuruddin, who will connect me to the necessary community peoples in that community to be able to regularize with them. And I cannot be able to do these things without his knowledge. I have to tell him, okay, now this is what you are bringing at stake. This is what you are bringing on board. I remember when we want to carry out this project, when we are planning it, actually, we have to involve ourselves with other NGOs in that particular community in the northwest, okay, to make sure that this project is a huge success, because we know that if we are doing this in isolation, we may not be able to get the target audience and the target population. So we needed to work with the people in that particular community to make sure we get our target audience, our target population. And then there's what we call general audience. General audience in this project, in this visual training, include people that are not actually in Northeast. Okay, people that are not actually in Northeast, these are our general audience. Like we have someone in Pakistan, we have someone in Ethiopia, we have people in Lagos and the like, so you can just name them. But our main target population are people in the northeastern region of Nigeria. Thank you. So next slide, please. So ground mapping, like these are types of mapping we are actually discussing. We've talked about community mapping, we have ground mapping, we have sketching, we have transit mapping, we have skill mapping. Okay, these are actually types of mapping that helps you to know the specific projects you want to carry out at that specific area. For instance, ground mapping, a basic mapping method that involves community members drawing maps on the ground from memory using available materials. You know, I actually know about this ground mapping in Benin Republic, okay, from an organization that are into land and youth assessment to land, okay, for their agricultural and their farming purposes. So for this ground mapping, is more often practiced by elders of that particular land, which helps them to know what has been at stake in time past and how the present can be able to reflect what they want to do. So transit mapping is a spatial and cross-section of a community depicting geographic features, e.g. infrastructures. You know, this transit mapping is often done with if industries want to come into a local community. Okay, so you have to do this transit mapping to know how the environment is. Transit mapping is more associated with environmental assessment, okay? To know how the environment is, to know the geographic features, if it is actually viable with the project you want to carry out. Let's say you want to carry out an agro-tree plantation or an agro-tree forestry. So you have to know or make sure that the environment you're carrying this out is actually favorable to what you want to do. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next. Next. Okay, next. Okay, so these are steps involved in conducting mapping. Go back, please. Okay, so first of all, you have to plan. Think about questions such as this. Can you hear me?
Yes, please carry on.
Okay. Think about questions such as this, like how large is the target area in square kilometer? That is the size. Okay. How many hectares? How many acres? How many plots? How many people live there? So you have to know the people, even though you don't have a total idea of the people. You have to have a sample population of the people. Probably if the people are 1 million, I don't know if they are 1 million or 500,000 or 1,000. You have to have at least a target sample of the people. Probably, let's say they are 1 million in your estimate. The sample population you could use is okay. I'm looking at 200. I'm looking at 100. Okay, how many buildings and roads are in that area? You also have to know these things. What will be the main challenge of mapping this area? So you have to know about the challenges, like are there the road network channels, are they okay? Is the road network channel accessible? Will network issue affect me mapping this area? Is this area used? Can we use GPS and all that to map this area and the likes? And then objective. So your objective needs to be clear of why you're actually mapping those areas and what the end product will be. Okay, so community entry, like I mentioned it earlier enough, is really important when you're carrying out a particular project in your community, especially for community that you have not been to before. So community entry is an orientation about projects for them to embrace. So it's more like telling the people about the project so that they have to embrace it. And if you want to do community entry, you have to use the people in that community. Don't bring in experts from other communities, because what is obtainable in another community may be different from what is obtainable in that particular community. That's why in sociology and anthropological lens, that's called culture. That was called culture is unique to culture bearers. Okay, so you cannot be able to say in the east, in southeast, you can do it this way, and in Northwest, what you did in Southeast can be applicable in Northwest. There are two different communities. To carry out a project, you should have need an alliance with relevant authorities like government ministry in charge, okay, to plan everything for you. And more importantly, community leaders. Even though you make point of entry with these ministries, if you don't make more strong involvement with community leaders, the project may fly, but it will not last, because it's community leaders that will sustain the project for you. It's not the government that will come and sustain it. So you need these community leaders actively involved in that project to help you push the project. Next slide, please. Okay, now we also have site selection. So you need to select the site, okay, based on objective, involve members of the community for sustainability. So based on your objective, which is more like promoting sustainable environmental practices, looking at climate solution, tackling climate injustice, promoting resilient and adaptive approach to mitigate climate change impact, you need to involve members of the community to this project so that they know that this is actually the place for the project. What area should be mapped? So you need to know, it's not all area in the community should be mapped. There are some areas that you cannot actually plant at a particular period of time. So you just have to know that if you're telling the community, if you're engaging the community leaders, you have to tell them from this area to this area, this is the area we're going to start with. Then probably in the next decade or in the next quarter or in the next 2 months or so, you're going to come over to this area and all that. Okay. And then what objects are within that area? So you have to know the objects that are within your reach or within that area that will help you facilitate the progress of that project. What attributes to collect about these objects? Okay, so and then we have 5, focus on specific features, like take note of key features, e.g. tree planting, land and topography, nature of soil. Important nature of soil, you have to take note of that, especially when you want to engage in any kind of tree planting, including agro-tree planting. You have to take knowledge of nature of soil so that you don't end up planting something that will not grow on that particular land. And you have to take note of source of water as well. It's really, really important in that particular area to know if that area has water or not. But come to think of it, of recent, we have a more sustainable and innovative ways of planting tree, even though water is not in that area. It's more of an innovative way of bringing about water harvesting to your crop, to your plants in any specific region you wish to do your tree planting. And then you also have to look at the waste collection, okay? And make sure that it's not close to residential area or source of water. You also have to look at recycling machineries and the like. Now, layouts using mapping tools, pegs, line, rope. These are the things you need to have when you want to start mapping this land and all that. And then the number 7 point is project execution. Then the last point is monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring and evaluation is more like an assessment carried out after the project execution to know the level of impact, to know the lapses, the goals that you covered and the goals that you didn't cover, and also to make adjustments and then to project for further projects if need be. Next slide, please. Okay, so thank you so much for listening, and then is over right now. And then please, we have the next facilitator on board so that we keep everybody waiting. Just type in your questions. I want to promise us that we'll take all questions. Once the next facilitator finishes, I know her slide is not much, we'll take all questions. This is the last day, so you just have to exercise that patience to type in our questions. Or if you can't type it in, can you all hear me?
Yes, we are here.
Yeah, we can hear you, Sam.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
If you can't type it in, please, you may write it out somewhere. But we'll make sure that we'll attend to every question. And the attendance the feedback form is placed at the chat box. That is for if you need an e-certificate for this training, we'll give you a certificate of participation. So we are all encouraged to fill feedback form. Thank you so much. And then we have the next facilitator here with us. And then please,
Hello, sir, have you sent the
Victor?
form? Have you sent the form? Did you see that if you need certificates,
Yes.
you will fill it?
Yes, the feedback form has been sent to your email address, the email address you used to register for this training. So
Okay.
you can
good.
check your email, please, and respond.
Good. Now, I feel you should have used these chat box because not everybody in that email is actually present here. Don't you think so? Okay. Yes, don't use that. Use the one here. I feel you should have used the one here because not everybody in that place are actually here. So that we get proper feedback from all participants. So please, the next facilitator, Larry, please, you may introduce the next facilitator. Please, I have to be brief about that.
All right. The next speaker is Mrs. Abba Oluchukwu. She is a passionate microbiologist with major in food microbiology, with research interest in enzymes that can break down resistant waste substances to useful substances so as to promote eco-friendly environments. She acquired her BSc and master's degree in food microbiology from Nnamdi Azikiwe University in Accra, and she is currently doing her PhD at same university. She is a lecturer at Federal University Gusau, where she has several important roles in her departments and institution at large. She loves to counsel and work with young people, and she had devoted her time to doing so through many volunteers, both in the health and education sector. She is currently the director, Darussan Women Vocational Center, whose primary aim is to empower women to be self-sufficient.
Please.
Mrs. Abba belongs to Nigerian Society for Microbiology and American Society of Microbiology. Dear participants, I present to you Mrs. Abba.
Good morning, all.
Good morning, please. You may go on.
Hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so today I'll be talking on impact of climate change on gender-based violence. We've learned so many things on climate change. According to the United Nations, can you hear me?
Yes,
climate
please go on.
Okay, climate change refers to some shifts in temperature and weather patterns. These shifts may be natural, but since the 1800s, human activities have been the main driver of climate change, primarily due to the burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas, which produces heat-trapping gases. What do we understand by gender? Many a times we mistake sex for gender. Sex refers to biological defined and genetically acquired differences between males and females, according to their physiology, reproductive capabilities.
Amil, please mute.
House surgery. Whereas gender refers to the economic, social, political, and cultural attributes and opportunities associated with being a woman and men. The social definition of what it means to be a woman or a man vary among cultures, and it changes over time. So gender is a sociocultural expression of particular characteristics and roles that are associated with certain groups of people with reference to their sex or sexuality. Next slide, please. Gender-based violence. Gender-based violence is the most pervasive yet least visible human rights violation in the world today. It includes both physical, sexual, mental, or economic harm inflicted on a person because of socially ascribed power imbalances between males and females. It also includes the threat of violence, coercion, and deprivation of liberty, whether in public or private. In all societies, women and girls have less power than men over their bodies, their decisions, and even their resources. Social norms that condone men's use of violence as a form of discipline and control reinforces gender inequality and perpetuates gender-based violence. Across the globe, women and girls, especially adolescents, face the greatest risk. There is a very scary statistic. Please, let's go to our next slide. A very scary statistic that says around the world, it is estimated that 1 in 3 women and girls will experience gender-based violence during her lifetime. This is according to World Bank 2019. So you can see that this is a very, very, very serious matter. Gender-based violence takes numerous forms. In form of intimate partner violence, sexual violence, child marriage, female genital mutilation, trafficking for sexual exploitation, female infanticide and honor, different kinds of vices. But the danger is most of these things that are happening, we are trying to now connect what is the impact of climate change. Why are we talking about climate change and gender-based violence? How does climate change affect gender-based violence? Let's now understand what are some of the impacts of climate change. That will help us to know why it has direct link to gender-based violence. One of the impacts is changing weather patterns and disruption of the usual balance of nature. In some places, there are stronger and intense hurricanes. There is desert expansion, reducing arable lands, melting glaciers and rise of sea levels. There are more wildfire spread. There are changes in rainfall pattern causing flood in some areas and drought in other areas. There are scarcity of water and food in some areas. There are increase in hot days and heat waves. All this climate change has a direct link to gender-based violence. What happens here? When there are natural disasters, let's go to our next slide, please. Impact of climate change on gender-based violence. Gender-based violence reaches every corner of the globe, but the danger is in emergency setting, gender-based violence soars. Let's take, for instance, I live here in the north, and in northern Nigeria, this issue of climate change is not so pronounced. Many people don't even know so much of this climate change. People know that the weather is changing, things are happening, but they don't know what it is. Some attribute it to parts of the land, some attribute it to one belief or the other. But people don't really know the danger, and they don't even know the extent to which this climate change can affect them. What happens in an environment where people are not well educated? What happens to an environment where people don't really know much about this? The danger increases. And who are those that suffer it directly? Who are those that experience these changes more? Or who are those that suffer the impact of these changes more? Women and children. Climate change is one of the most urgent issues of our time, with widespread implications for the Earth's ecosystem and human development across sectors. From the increase in poverty, to the breakdown of infrastructure, to the loss of environmental, political, economic, and social security, the impacts of climate change are extensive. Last 2 years, we experienced a very severe rainfall in the north that we have never experienced before. And it's resulted to flooding. So many people were displaced from their homes. So many people lost their sort of livelihood. Plants didn't do well. What happened? Onion that was formerly gotten in the north became a scarce commodity. And we know what happened in Nigeria. The onion became so expensive, foodstuff became so expensive. And all these things brought about increase in poverty level, especially here in the northern Nigeria. Most people could not on a normal day afford 3 square meal. Now are forced to even look for 1 square meal. What did this increase? Crime rates increased, banditry increased, kidnapping increased. And who are the targets? Women and children. We hear every day people are kidnapped. Different communities are raided. What happened? These women are raped and their girls' child are kidnapped. And most of them are taken into forced sex. Some of them get pregnant, and most of them, they get pregnant very young. And as a result, different health complications arise. So, however, a critical aspect is missing whenever when issues of climate change are being discussed, especially during roundtable policy negotiation. What is that critical aspect that is missing? The gender perspective. Please, can we go to the next slide? What are the specific impacts of climate change on gender-based violence? Number 1, sexual assault / rape. I have said that when people can no longer, when level of poverty is high, some people resort to crimes. Women travel or trek very long distances to get water because of scarcity of water. Most of these women, in the course of their going to get water, what happened? They are raped. They are assaulted. Children drop out of school because they want to help their parents. And when they are doing so, they can no longer go to school. They have to start selling things. You see little children selling things, hawking things by the wayside so that they can make ends meet. Number 2, domestic violence increases. A man that provides for the family can no longer do so. What happened? He becomes violent. He feels he is no longer in charge. He feels he can no longer fulfill his roles. And some of them cannot handle it emotionally. They turn towards domestic violence. And who are the end receivers of that domestic violence? The woman and children. Verbal abuse also setting. Harassment setting. Stalking. Most people are being stalked. Then the one that pains me the more is child marriage. And in our community, in our environment here, it is so predominant. People get married so easily. Most people get their children married so they can get money to feed the remainder of their family. So these children are now used as a survival strategy for their family. There is high level of economic deprivation as a result of what? Climate change. The environment changes and the economy also suffers. Survival sex setting. Somebody wants, in some parts of the world, in some parts of Africa, some women will want to get fish. Fish farmers will no longer agree to give women fish for exchange of maybe a manual labor. They will now ask for sex in order for them to give them fish, for them to go home and cook for their families. There are forced prostitution, alcoholism sets in the side of the men. Remember we said this gender-based violence, it affects everyone. Just that the greater people that suffer it is women and children. So some men tend towards alcoholism because they could no longer fend for themselves. Some also go to the extent of committing what? Suicide. Many people lose self-esteem when a woman is raped. When a woman's child is raped in her presence. When a woman is raped in the presence of her children, that woman can never gain her esteem again. She loses self-esteem. And this climate change has caused people to lose their source of livelihood. Most places have been flooded. People lost their businesses. People lost their source of livelihood. Some were farmers. Everything was destroyed as a result of flood. Some places that normally have normal rainfall no longer have or do no longer experience enough rainfall for plants to grow, and drought sets in. As a result of climate change, the level of desertification is increasing. Thank God our former speaker just talked about the essence of reforestation, that we need to build more, we need to plant more trees so that we can help control desertification. Then trauma sets in. Most victims of rape and violence and sexual assault, they pass through what? Trauma. And I've already talked about school dropouts. Most of them Most of the children do what? They drop out of school. these things are what specific impacts of what gender-based violence. We're talking about who are the worst hit by its impacts. We have already talked about it, and we keep reiterating that what women and children suffer more. Climate breakdown and the global crisis of environmental degradation are increasing violence against women and girls. They're the ones that suffer this. During emergencies, especially conflict and disaster, women are at high risk of sexual and gender-based violence because of crisis in the family and society, as well as due to sudden breakdown of family and community structures arising from forced displacements. As a result, women and girls become more vulnerable and face physical, sexual, psychological harm, as well as denial of resources or necessary services. Please, let's go to the next slide. We want to see some, next slide, please. We want to see some illustrative examples of linkages between environmental issues and gender-based violence. Under environmental issues, we talk about resource scarcity, restricted access to or control over natural resources. What are the associated effects? Excavating gender-based violence. Number one is food insecurity, household stress, intercommunal conflicts. It brings about rising intercommunal conflicts. So, and what are the gender-based violence dimensions? Intimate partner violence, child marriage, coerced transactional sex, adoption and rape. Then we'll talk about deforestation and land degradation. Women and girls travel longer distances to collect resources, particularly when increasingly scarce and restricted. Then what happened to them? Women and girls exposed to sexual violence and abduction en route. Can you hear me?
Yes, okay. Yes, we can hear you now. We lost you, please.
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Of natural resources that underpins livelihoods, driving scarcity and poverty. Damage to infrastructures, services, displacement and disruption of communities. What happens here? Women and children are exposed to sexual and intimate partner violence in and outside of evacuation camps. Inequitable access to or availability of recovery services, information or support, then coerced transactional sex. Let's move to the next slide, please. In all these things we have talked about, what is the way forward? One, we need an inclusive legislative policies. During the roundtable meetings, government should include the rights of women and children. They should see the effect of this climate change on women and children and try to bring in solutions when they're making their legislations. Then number two, reforestation. Our previous speaker talked about it. Number three, we need building of wells and boreholes in areas that are suffering from droughts, so that women don't have to trek far distances in search of water, thereby exposing them to sexual casualties. Then we need construction of fish ponds, so that people will no longer trade for fish. Then we need to empower women by giving them different sources of what? Income. Then engaging men and women in the communities in a series of participatory activities that will include critical reflection, power analysis, understanding gender violence, and alternatives to it in relationship. Then again, we need to building gender equitable attitudes, providing referral linkages to care for survivors. It is very important that the survivors from this different kind of sexual-based violence are cared for. If not, most of them go into depression, and some of them may resort to suicide. Then we need to dismantle harmful gender norms. Some societies, some communities, some countries have terrible norms that doesn't have regard for women and children. These norms need to be what? Dismantled. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, the fight against climate change is not only a struggle to keep our planet livable. For many women, it can be a direct cause of violence. Without women's full participation and freedom from violence, oppression and discrimination, our efforts to achieve various developmental goals will be fundamentally hampered. A report by CARE found that in most disasters, women and girls are worst affected. The report highlights that 1 out of 5 women who are refugees or who have been displaced because of a natural disaster has experienced sexual violence. Climate action is therefore an essential component in the ongoing fight to eliminate violence against women and girls. The world also needs greater involvement of women in climate action. For example, by putting an emphasis on gender mainstreaming in the policy-making process. Tackling the issue of violence against women and girls is an important step towards achieving the core objective of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is to leave no one behind. This aligns with the need for gender equality and gender mainstreaming. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma, for this wonderful presentation. I really enjoy it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mrs. Holochukwu Abba. And I think it's now time for us to entertain questions.
Yes, please. This time we want to dedicate it to questions. Okay. I don't know if our next speaker is still here. Okay, so please bring in your questions. Bring in your questions. Please, let's unmute our mic, please. Let's unmute our mic. The next 8 minutes we should be leaving here. So let's just entertain your questions now, please. Especially from the last speaker, that was really awesome. I know there has been a whole lot of synonymous relationship between GBP and climate change. And I think I've done a presentation. I did a presentation on that last year, and this is also another wonderful presentation, well delivered. So for all the female gender here, I need more questions from you guys. Okay? Because right now the male gender that is climate change is not affecting anyway. Don't you say that climate change is affecting everybody, but the female gender suffers more impact? Okay, so the female gender, we need more questions. We need questions from you guys. Okay, Timothy, please. Timothy, please go on. Timothy, please go on.
Audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello.
Yes, Timothy, we can hear you.
Thank every participant and the organizers of this training. This is a good start, and it enables people to the climate change, which is global. It's a global problem. Thank you.
Okay. Please, questions, or we'll come to an end of this section. If there are any more questions. Anybody want to participate? I think we can just reply for a question about can we participate in these webinars as presenters in coming training programs? Yes, it's possible. Just send a mail. My mail is let me drop my mail here. And there is also something unique we want to do today. So everybody should please, you have to wait. Okay, there's something unique we want to do here today, and if you are here, you're going to be a beneficiary of that. So let me just type my mail here. So this is my mail, samuel@theupmovement.org. So you can reach me out in that mail. We can organize this training. Yes, we can organize it. And for your region, for your state, it's something we can organize. So just send me a mail. Let's work that out.
Hello, Sam. I think there is one important question in the chat box by Nafisa Lawal. She said to the last speaker, please last speaker mentioned that women are the most people affected by this climate change. So please, is there a way that we can stop this from happening? This question is directed to Mrs. Oluchukwu Abba.
Yeah, I talked about creating legislation that are inclusive for women and children. Then we as stakeholders also have to go about training and retraining of women. When you train a woman, you train the nation. We need to educate our women on how to save themselves. And that is where women empowerment comes in. We need to empower our women. When our women are empowered, they would also have voice. But the woman that is not empowered is just as the same. How some people say, Kurma, what is the Kurma? Someone that cannot talk. So we need to empower women. Then when our government include women, does legislation that are women inclusive, it will help a lot in hearing or bringing our voices to the forefront. Then changes can be seen. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I think we also have another question for you. And then please, I've sent my mail. There's a question someone asked me about if they would like to organize this, if someone wants to be a presenter in this training. So I've sent my mail again. So all you have to do is just send me a mail and we'll work that out with you. And another question, what role can women play? Can women or the girl's child play to mitigate the impact of climate change? What role can women or girl child play? Let me use the word girl child. I think women are more mature. Let's say, what role can girl child play to mitigate the impact of climate change in their relationship?
It's not just women and girl child. It's everyone's role. Climate change is not is a universal issue. So it's not now a question for what can a woman do to mitigate it. What can we all do? Okay. We must plant trees. We must help reduce the level of carbon that we release to the atmosphere. We must promote green environments. So there are things that we all generally can do. But where there are crises, where there are issues already, what can a woman do? That is where it still boils back to let's educate our women. Let's empower our women. If a woman is not empowered, she can't do anything. If a woman is not educated, she can't do anything. So we need to increase this awareness of climate change. We need to increase this awareness of it, especially in northern Nigeria, so that people will know what is really happening in our environment. Because typically, almost everybody uses firewood here. That is the easiest means of cooking. But they don't know that it has another impact that is disastrous to them. So we need to increase advocacy so that people, because you cannot change what you don't even have an idea about. So people need to know. Advocacy has to come in. We have to do lots of advocacy so that people will know what is happening in the environment and see what roles they can play to bring a change, a positive change in their environment. So it's not just for women and children, it's for all of us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Abdullahi, please, your question. After Abdullahi, Felix, and that is all for today. That's it. Abdullahi, please go on.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Please go on.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you, Abdullahi.
I'm Abdullahi from Puntua, Katsina State. So I was just wondering how the linkage between climate change and gender-based violence is going to be. But the speaker has done that eloquently, and I thank her for her presentation. So I want to say that I think the impact of climate change on the gender-based violence is secondary, not primary. The impact of climate change is human, is for everybody. So, but I think the direction should be toward the effect of climate change is mostly affecting women in that regard. I totally agree with the speaker that in the displacement, when displacement caused by either natural or man-made displacement, the people that are suffering much are women and the children. That one is very clear. But for the climate change generally, I want to believe that my conviction here is affecting everyone, and the impact is human, is affecting everyone. But when it's come to the effect, when there are natural disasters, as she rightly said, or even man-made disasters, for people to be displaced, and then we conclude that climate change that is affecting women most. But I primarily, the climate change, to my opinion, is affecting everybody. So I would like the speaker to shed more light. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's take the last question from Mr. Felix. And Mr. Felix, please go on.
Good afternoon. My name is Felix from Nigeria. My question is,
Mr. Felix, you're not audible.
Okay. Yes. According to our last speaker, speaking on the violence, how it has affected women and young adults. Yeah, climate issue has caused a lot of effects, and if we can bring in the young adolescents, mobilize them and empower them, because it has really bring down our social and an economic productivity, thereby causing violence, bringing out violent attitude on youth and women getting pregnant here and there. So if we can actually mobilize the young adolescents, precisely, if I should say, between the age of 18 to 25, they are haywire, and the economic is really affecting them. And we can contribute that. Sorry. Yes, we can actually mobilize them, I said, and engage them in this movement to deal with the climate change. So I don't know, is there any way, or is there any program that has been set already to engage those young ones, precisely the young adults, the young adolescents, please? Thank you very much.
Okay, so about Oluchukwu, Madam Oluchukwu, please, you may just attend to those two questions, and please, you have a limited time for this, so that we can run the first section. Thank you.
Okay, different groups are carrying out different movements to bring about alleviate the issue of climate change. There are so many groups. When you Google it, you see so many groups already working on this. They're working with different countries and different groups of people. So there are groups already doing that in different countries. So that one, they've already started that. And they're already meeting with different groups and different communities to bring about positive or to repair what has been done by climate change, especially with regards to gender-based violence against women and children. So there are groups that are doing that.
Okay, thank you. To the previous question, I don't know if you heard what the previous
I heard what he was repeating what I have said. I said it affects everyone, but people that suffer more are women and children. So he's correct. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So right now we are done for today. Geoffrey, please, let's just have you. All right. Jeffrey, please go on.
Okay, good day, my colleagues and friends. My question here is from what the speaker has said, he did mention a lot of ways that violent is. But the issue here is that we are like somebody who just prophesies to you and tell you this is your problem, but never gives you a way out the solution. For instance, now, sometime let's say in December, gas went up, and even those who were encouraged to buy gas were unable to buy. And there was no solution provided for it. Now, the cutting down of trees is part of the solution for them. And now we are now encouraging the stoppage of cutting down of trees. So what are those solutions that would replace the cutting down of trees for them to be able to cook their food? 80% of Nigerians use firewood. And again, there are some stoves brought in by UN and some other organizations. They came in very, very on a high. They are very, very expensive, and these low-income areas are the ones who are encouraged to buy, but they cannot afford it. So what I look at it as government should have come in to subsidize this thing, but nothing is happening. So what is the preferred solution way out of this? Thank you very much.
How about Oluchika? I don't know if you can attend to that or at least.
Okay. I heard him. He was talking about the use of firewood on the increase. The truth is that in developing countries, you cannot entirely phase out the use of firewood because most people can't afford to use alternative energy. But there are alternative, or there are solutions to this. Planting of trees. As you are cutting down trees, let new trees be planted. If trees are planted, when new ones are growing and they're cutting the old ones, we will not still suffer heavily the effect of climate change. But what we're saying is, let's not cut down the whole trees without replanting those trees. It's going to be disastrous for us. And there are issues of biogas. And by God's grace, the technology is coming up gradually. And if that technology works, I believe the price of gas will come down. So let's believe that there will be change. So when you are cutting down one tree, you should plant 10 trees so that it can suffice for what you just did. So if talking about saying that people should stop using firewood entirely, it's not that easy, especially in Nigeria, and especially in this area that I am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And then just to add to that, and our speaker yesterday, he talked about the terminal method, and then before he came on board, I know I've engaged in one-on-one in several occasions, and then he said something. He said one of his experiences when he was in Niger Republic was that people were actually cutting, but we are not planting, and the trees were not growing. So he brought in the terminal method and also brought in the need for plowing. Okay, so plowing is you cut a branch and also plant. So you don't get to cut the whole tree entirely. By so doing, you are also conserving it. You are also conserving that land, and you are also promoting reforestation. Okay, and you are also planting, so you don't get to lose everything all at once. Okay, so that is one of the things I have to add to this. And then just to bring us to a closure today, I want to thank everybody for the time, for the energy, and then for the attention, for the participation. I'm really grateful. I want to give a shout out to all the facilitators that we are able to make it today. And then also sorry to Mr. Victor for his presentation earlier. It was beyond our control, and then we hope that in future trainings as this network will be more easier for everybody. And then I also want to thank Mr. Nuruddin, who is in Northwest. Yes, I have to make a mistake about that. Northwest Zamfara State. Yeah, thank you for helping in organizing this training and for your support and for also inviting some of the participants here. And then we also discussed about something with Mr. Narudin about empowering youths from this training who want to carry out climate action in their community. And then we want to do that. I don't know the process of doing that, but the process is going to be from your feedback. So the level of feedback we receive from you will determine the level of engagement we will engage with you in time to come, because we want to empower some youths here in their community. Remember, the speaker we had, the speaker for Nigeria Youth Parliament, who is Vice Honorable Azizat Sisson, said, if you want to start climate action process, start from start from your local community, start from the grassroots. So we want to bring this down to youths right now in this particular training to empower them to start from their grassroots to carry out climate action and engagement with necessary stakeholders. And we want to start this already. We already started this, but we have not actually started this with northwestern region of Nigeria. We started with the northeast. Yes, we started with northeast. We've not done this with northwest. We've not done this with north central. So currently, we have engaged in northwestern region of Nigeria using this training, and they want to engage them physically as well after this training for the few selected youths who are getting their names from standard reading, and then they'll be strictly people that participated in this training. So please, your feedback is really, really important to us, and this certificate will be issued, and this certificate of participation will be issued to everybody. I will also appreciate the pop movements and organization I also belong to for putting up this wonderful training, this wonderful today's social training for the platform. And then the training is also streamed live on YouTube, so you get all the necessary information that is spoken about on YouTube. Thank you so much to Kumar. Thank you to Kumar for the time, and then thank you to everybody